Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Society. Tonight, we're drifting towards some of the most remarkable places on Earth. Earth, islands born from fire and shaped by time, where mountains rise from the deepest ocean trenches and life finds a way to flourish on barren rock. If you find comfort in these gentle explorations of our world, I invite you to like and subscribe. It helps other curious souls discover this quiet corner where science meets restful wonder. But for now, simply settle in. Let your breathing slow. Allow your thoughts to soften around the edges. Tonight, we're journeying to volcanic islands, those extraordinary fragments of land scattered across the world's oceans like jewels cast upon dark water. Volcanic islands are among Earth's most dynamic landscapes, places where the planet's restless interior breaks through to meet sky and sea. They stand as monuments to forces that operate far beyond human timescales, built layer by layer through processes that began millions of years ago and continue today. Some are young and still growing, their slopes steaming with fresh lava. Others are ancient, their volcanoes long extinct, their peaks worn smooth by wind and rain. Each tells a story of creation and transformation, of destruction and renewal, of the endless dance between fire and water that shapes our world. These islands occupy a special place in both our scientific understanding and our imagination. They are laboratories of evolution, showcases of biodiversity, and reminders of our planet's immense geological power. On volcanic islands, we find species that exist nowhere else on Earth. Ecosystems assembled from chance arrivals across vast ocean distances, and landscapes so otherworldly they seem to belong to different planets entirely. They challenge our understanding of how life spreads and adapts, how continents move and mountains grow, how fragile ecosystems can be, and how remarkably resilient. From the tropical paradise of Hawaii to the stark beauty of Iceland, from the wildlife sanctuary of the Galapagos to the mysterious isolation of Easter Island, volcanic islands have captured human curiosity for as long as we've sailed the seas. They've served as waypoints for ancient navigators, inspiration for scientific theories, and home to cultures that developed in near total isolation from the rest of humanity. Each island is a world unto itself, with its own climate, its own creatures, its own geological personality, shaped by the specific circumstances of its birth. Tonight, we'll explore how these remarkable places come into being, rising from ocean depths in processes that span millions of years. We'll discover the different types of volcanic islands and what makes each unique. We'll follow the journey from sterile rock to thriving ecosystem, watching as life colonizes these new lands in an ancient pattern of succession that has played out countless times across the ages. We'll meet the extraordinary creatures that call these islands home, species that evolved in isolation to fill every available niche. And we'll consider the challenges these precious places face in our rapidly changing world, as rising seas, invasive species, and human pressures test the resilience of ecosystems that took eons to establish. So let your mind drift with me now across wide ocean expanses, to where the seafloor buckles and cracks, where magma forces its way upward through miles of rock, where underwater mountains slowly breach the surface to become islands, raw and new, ready to be colonized by life that will transform them into paradise. Birth beneath the waves. How volcanic islands form. Volcanic islands begin their existence in darkness and crushing pressure, deep beneath the ocean's surface where sunlight never penetrates, and the weight of water measures in the thousands of pounds per square inch. Here, in this alien realm, forces from even deeper within the earth set in motion events that will eventually create land where none existed before. The process is slow by human standards, yet swift in geological time. A patient accumulation of rock built eruption by eruption, layer upon layer, until finally a peak emerges into air and light. The ocean floor is not a stable, unchanging plain. It's a dynamic landscape of ridges and trenches, mountains and valleys, all shaped by the movement of vast tectonic plates that float on the semi-molten rock of Earth's mantle like ice flows on a sea. These plates are in constant motion, spreading apart in some places, colliding in others, sliding past each other in yet others. At certain locations, conditions align in ways that allow magma, molten rock from deep within the planet, to force its way upward through cracks and weaknesses in the oceanic crust. When this magma erupts onto the seafloor, it begins building what will eventually become an island. One of the primary mechanisms for volcanic island formation involves what geologists call hotspots, stationary areas of unusually intense heat deep within Earth's mantle. Picture a blowtorch held beneath a slowly moving sheet of metal. The torch stays in one place while the metal slides over it. In much the same way, hot spots remain relatively fixed, while tectonic plates drift across them, typically at rates of just a few centimeters per year. At a hot spot, abnormally hot mantle rock rises in what scientists call a mantle plume, a column of heated material ascending from perhaps as deep as the boundary between the mantle and the core, nearly 1 to 800 miles beneath the surface. As this superheated material rises, the pressure on it decreases. This reduction in pressure causes the rock to partially melt, creating magma that is less dense than the surrounding solid rock. This magma continues rising, eventually breaking through the oceanic crust in an eruption that, if it occurs deep underwater, looks nothing like the explosive volcanoes we're familiar with on land. Instead, lava oozes out onto the seafloor in flows that quickly cool in contact with the cold ocean water, forming rounded shapes called pillow lavas. Over thousands of eruptions spanning millions of years, these flows accumulate, building an underwater mountain that grows slowly toward the distant surface. The Hawaiian Islands provide the textbook example of hotspot volcanism. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, a mantle plume has been feeding volcanoes for at least 70 million years. The Pacific Plate moves northwest across this hotspot at about 7 to 9 centimeters per year. As it does, volcanoes form, build up to create islands, then gradually move away from their source of magma as the plate carries them onward. Behind them, new volcanoes begin forming directly over the hotspot. This creates a chain of islands and underwater mountains called seamounts, with the oldest at one end and the youngest at the other. If you were to look at a map of the Hawaiian island chain, you'd see this progression clearly. The big island of Hawaii, at the southeastern end, is the youngest, still sitting directly over the hotspot, still actively erupting from volcanoes like Kilauea and Mauna Loa. Moving northwest along the chain, each island is progressively older. The island of Maui is about 1 million years old, Oahu around 3 to 4 million years, and Kauai approximately 5 million years. Beyond Kauai, the chain continues underwater as the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, ancient seamounts, and small rocky islets that were once towering volcanic peaks but have slowly subsided below sea level. The very oldest parts of the chain, now near the Aleutian Trench, formed some 70 million years ago and have been almost completely eroded away. The Hawaiian hotspot has been so productive that it has created the tallest mountain on Earth, measured from base to summit. Mauna Kea on the Big Island rises 13,803 feet above sea level, but its base sits on the ocean floor more than 19,000 feet below the surface. From its underwater foundation to its snow-capped peak, Mauna Kea stands over 33,000 feet tall, significantly exceeding Mount Everest's height of 29,032 feet above sea level. This immense volcano didn't appear overnight. It grew through countless eruptions over approximately 1 million years, each adding a new layer of solidified lava to the growing edifice. Not all volcanic islands form from hotspots. Another major mechanism occurs at subduction zones, places where two tectonic plates collide, and one is forced beneath the other. When an oceanic plate slides under another plate, whether oceanic or continental, it descends into the mantle, gradually heating up from the increasing temperature and pressure. At depths around 60 to 100 miles, conditions become extreme enough to drive water and other volatile materials out of the descending plate. These volatiles rise into the wedge of mantle rock above the subducting slab, lowering its melting point and causing it to partially melt. The Kainahoa resulting magma is less dense than the surrounding rock and begins rising toward the surface. If the overlying plate is oceanic, the magma eventually erupts on the seafloor, building volcanoes that can grow into chains of islands called island arcs. These arcs curve across the ocean in graceful sweeps, following the contours of the subduction zone beneath them. The Japanese islands, the Aleutian Islands stretching from Alaska toward Russia, the Lesser Antilles in the Caribbean, and the Mariana Islands in the Western Pacific all formed through this process. Island arc volcanoes tend to erupt more explosively than hotspot volcanoes because the magma that feeds them has a different composition. It contains more silica and dissolved gases, making it thicker and more viscous. When this sticky magma rises, gases cannot easily escape from it. Pressure builds until finally the volcano erupts violently, sending ash and rock high into the atmosphere. These eruptions create steep-sided composite volcanoes, quite different from the gentle shield volcanoes typical of hotspots. Running alongside every island arc is a deep ocean trench, the surface expression of the subduction zone where one plate bends and descends beneath another. The Mariana Trench, the deepest place on Earth at nearly 7 miles below sea level, parallels the Mariana Islands. The Peru-Chile Trench runs along South America's western coast, while the Aleutian Trench marks where the Pacific Plate subducts beneath the North American plate. These trenches are among Earth's most extreme environments, places of perpetual darkness and bone-crushing pressure, where specialized organisms have adapted to conditions that would instantly kill most life forms. A third way volcanic islands form involves divergent plate boundaries, places where tectonic plates pull apart and new oceanic crust is created. The most extensive divergent boundary is the mid-ocean ridge system, a chain of underwater mountains that winds through every ocean basin like the seam on a baseball, spanning more than 40,000 miles in total length. At these ridges, magma wells up from the mantle to fill the gap created by separating plates, solidifying to form new oceanic crust. Normally, mid-ocean ridges lie entirely underwater, but in a few locations, volcanic activity has been prolific enough to build mountains that reach above sea level. Iceland is the largest and most famous example. It sits atop the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, where the North American and Eurasian plates are pulling apart at about 1 inch per year. But Iceland is not just a product of divergent tectonics. It also sits above a mantle hotspot, so it receives magma from two sources simultaneously. This double dose of volcanism has created an island large enough to support a population of over 300,000 people and an area of about 40,000 square miles, making it the second largest island in Europe. Iceland's landscape bears vivid testimony to its volcanic origins. The island is home to over 30 active volcanic systems, numerous hot springs, geysers, and vast fields of hardened lava. A volcanic rift zone runs through the center of the island from southwest to northeast, clearly visible as a landscape of fissures, faults, and recent lava flows. Visitors can walk between the North American and Eurasian plates at Thingvellir, a rift valley where the plates are actively pulling apart. Every few years, somewhere in Iceland, the ground splits open, lava fountains into the air, and new rock is added to the island. The journey from seafloor to sea surface is not quick or simple. A typical submarine volcano must build through 3 to 4 miles of ocean depth before it can create an island. The Hawaiian volcanoes, for instance, erupt on seafloor that lies roughly 15,000 to 18,000 feet below sea level. To reach the surface, they must build mountains of this height before the first rocky shoal appears above the waves. Given eruption rates that might add only a few yards of height per century during quiet periods, creating an island from scratch can take 1,000,000 years or more. During this long growth period, the volcano passes through several distinct stages. In the submarine phase, all eruptions occur underwater, hidden from human observation except by research submersibles or remote sensors. The lava behaves differently than it would on land because seawater rapidly cools and solidifies the outer surface of each flow, creating a glassy crust while the interior remains molten. As more lava erupts, it breaks through the solidified crust and forms new pillows, gradually building the volcanic mountain higher. Eventually, if eruptions continue long enough, the volcano enters the shallow submarine phase, growing upward into depths where sunlight can penetrate and wave action becomes significant. Here, the volcano's summit may rise and fall beneath the surface, sometimes breaking into the air during eruptions only to be eroded back below sea level by wave action. Finally, sustained volcanic activity can build a permanent island, a solid platform of rock stable enough to resist the erosive power of the ocean. Once this threshold is crossed, the volcano enters its sub-aerial phase, erupting into air rather than water, and the island begins its long evolution toward maturity. The architecture of fire, types and structures. Not all volcanic islands look alike. The specific characteristics of each island depend on the composition of its magma, the style of its eruptions, and its age. Walk across a young Hawaiian lava field, then visit the steep slopes of an Aleutian volcano, and you'll encounter dramatically different landscapes shaped by different volcanic processes. Shield volcanoes dominate hotspot islands like Hawaii. These volcanoes have gentle slopes, typically rising at angles of only 5 to 10 degrees, giving them a broad, dome-like profile that suggests a warrior's shield laid flat on the ground. Their gentle shape comes from the fluid nature of their lava, which is low in silica and high in iron and magnesium, making it runny like honey rather than thick like toothpaste. When this basaltic lava erupts, it flows easily across the surface, sometimes traveling many miles from the vent before solidifying. Hawaiian eruptions are often spectacular but rarely explosive. Lava fountains may shoot hundreds of feet into the air, creating incandescent curtains of molten rock that light up the night sky. Lava flows pour down the volcano's flanks in rivers of fire, consuming forests, roads, and occasionally buildings, but moving slowly enough that people can generally evacuate without danger. These effusive eruptions can continue for months or even years. Kilauea, on Hawaii's Big Island, erupted almost continuously from 1983 until 2018, one of the longest eruptions in recorded history, adding more than 500 acres of new land to the island where lava flowed into the ocean and solidified. The Hawaiian volcanoes are massive beyond most people's comprehension. Mauna Loa, the largest shield volcano on Earth, contains about 18,000 cubic miles of rock. If you were to slice it horizontally at sea level, the exposed surface would cover an area roughly the size of the state of Connecticut. Yet this immense mountain grew from nothing through individual eruptions, each adding a relatively thin layer of lava. When you stand on Mauna Loa's summit, you're standing on countless layers of hardened lava flows stacked atop one another like pages in a book, each recording a moment in the volcano's history. In contrast, the volcanoes that form island arcs at subduction zones are typically stratovolcanoes, also called composite volcanoes. These have much steeper sides, often rising at angles of 30 to 40 degrees, creating the classic cone shape most people picture when they think of volcanoes. Their steep profiles result from their more explosive eruption style and more viscous lava. When these volcanoes erupt, they produce a mixture of lava flows, ash, and rocky debris called pyroclastic material. Over time, alternating layers of lava and pyroclastic material build up, creating the stratified structure that gives these volcanoes their name. Many of Earth's most famous and dangerous volcanoes are stratovolcanoes on island arcs. Mount Fuji in Japan, Krakatoa in Indonesia, and Mount Vesuvius near Naples all belong to this category. Their eruptions can be catastrophic. In 1883, Krakatoa exploded with such violence that the sound was heard 3,000 miles away. The eruption column reached 25 miles high, and the resulting tsunamis killed more than 36,000 people. The collapse of the volcano into the empty magma chamber beneath it created a submarine caldera, and subsequent eruptions have built a new island, Anak Krakatau, or Child of Krakatoa, in its place. Calderas represent some of the most dramatic volcanic features on islands. These are large depressions that form when a magma chamber empties during an eruption and the unsupported rock above collapses into the void. Calderas can measure many miles across and thousands of feet deep. Santorini in Greece is a caldera partially filled by the sea, creating a spectacular circular bay ringed by steep cliffs. The island's distinctive crescent shape is all that remains of a much larger volcanic island that existed before a massive eruption around 1600 BCE caused the central portion to collapse. The Hawaiian Islands also host impressive calderas. At Kilauea's summit, a caldera about 2 miles across and more than 600 feet deep contains within it a smaller crater called Halemaumau, which has been the site of frequent lava lake activity. Watching a lava lake is like looking into the planet's beating heart. The surface churns and circulates, fresh lava welling up in the center and spreading outward in a slow convection pattern before sinking at the edges. Gas escapes in steady streams, creating a wavering column of vapor above the lake. At night, the glow from the lava paints the volcanic gases in shades of red and orange, a sight that draws visitors from around the world. Lava tubes are another characteristic feature of many volcanic islands, particularly shield volcanoes. These form when a lava flow develops a solid crust, while the interior remains molten and continues flowing. Eventually, the supply of lava diminishes and the tube drains, leaving a tunnel that can extend for miles underground. Some Hawaiian lava tubes are large enough to drive trucks through. They serve as natural conduits that can efficiently transport lava from high on the volcano to lower elevations, sometimes all the way to the sea. When active, lava tubes insulate the molten rock, keeping it hot and fluid, allowing it to travel much farther than surface flows could. After they drain and cool, lava tubes become caves that support unique ecosystems. In Hawaii, several rare species of invertebrates live exclusively in lava tubes, adapted to the constant temperature and humidity. The tubes also have cultural significance. Ancient Hawaiians used them for shelter, water collection, and sometimes burial. Some tubes contain ancient petroglyphs carved into the walls, mysterious symbols whose exact meaning has been lost to time. Many volcanic islands feature black sand beaches, created when waves erode fresh lava rock and grind it into sand. This sand is composed of tiny fragments of basalt glass, sharp-edged and dark as night. Walking on a black sand beach is a unique experience as the dark surface absorbs heat intensely, making the sand hot enough on sunny days to burn bare feet. The contrast between the black sand, white surf, and green vegetation creates landscapes of stark beauty. Some islands also have green or even red beaches, colored by specific minerals in the volcanic rock. Green sand beaches contain olivine, a mineral rich in iron and magnesium that forms in certain types of basaltic lava. Papakolea Beach on Hawaii's Big Island is one of only 4 green sand beaches in the world, its distinctive color coming from olivine crystals eroded from a nearby cinder cone. Red beaches get their color from iron-rich cinders that oxidize, essentially rusting. These colorful beaches are fragile, formed from specific geological circumstances, and exist in only a handful of locations worldwide. Volcanic islands often feature numerous cinder cones scattered across their surfaces, small volcanoes formed by explosive ejection of frothy lava fragments that cool into lightweight, porous rocks called cinders. These cones are typically symmetrical, with steep sides and bowl-shaped craters at their summits. They form during relatively short eruption episodes, sometimes in just weeks or months. Hawaii has hundreds of cinder cones, giving parts of the landscape an almost lunar appearance with cone after cone dotting the horizon. The evolution of a volcanic island's shape doesn't end when eruptions cease. Once volcanism stops, erosion takes over. Rain falls on the bare rock. Chemical reactions begin breaking down minerals, and over time, valleys form. On the windward sides of islands, where moisture-laden trade winds dump their rainfall, erosion proceeds quickly. Deep valleys cut into the flanks of extinct volcanoes, creating dramatic landscapes of fluted cliffs, hanging valleys, and steep waterfalls. The Napali coast of Kauai, with its cathedral-like valleys carved from ancient volcanic rock, shows what happens to a shield volcano after several million years of tropical rainfall. A chain of time, island sequences, and ages. The Hawaiian island chain stretches across 1,500 miles of the Pacific Ocean, a string of islands and seamounts that records millions of years of volcanic activity. Looking at this chain is like looking through a time tunnel, seeing the past, present, and future of volcanic islands all at once. At the southeastern end, the Big Island is young and active, its volcanoes still growing. Moving northwest, each island is older, more eroded, with extinct volcanoes whose once sharp peaks have been worn into gentler profiles. This age progression provides some of the clearest evidence for plate tectonics and the hotspot theory. By precisely dating rocks from different islands, geologists have determined that Kauai, the oldest of the main Hawaiian islands, is about 5.1 million years old. Oahu is roughly 3.7 million years old, Molokai about 1.9 million years, Maui approximately 1.3 million years, and the Big Island less than 700,000 years old. The pattern is clear. The farther an island is from the hotspot, the older it is. This progression continues beyond the main islands. Northwest of Kauai lie several small islands and atolls, collectively called the Northwestern Hawaiian Islands, or Papahanaumokuakea. These are the heavily eroded remnants of once great shield volcanoes that have subsided below sea level. French Frigate Shoals, Laysan Island, and Midway Atoll mark the graves of extinct volcanoes that erupted millions of years ago, built substantial islands, then slowly sank, as the ocean crust beneath them cooled and contracted. The Hawaiian chain continues even beyond these, extending northwest as the Emperor Seamount Chain, a series of completely submerged mountains that were once volcanic islands. These seamounts stretch all the way to the Aleutian Trench, where the Pacific Plate subducts beneath the North American Plate. The oldest seamount in this chain, Meiji Seamount, is about 85 million years old. It formed as a volcanic island during the Age of Dinosaurs, long before any mammal walked on Earth, then was carried by plate motion across thousands of miles of ocean before finally being consumed at a subduction zone. Interestingly, the Hawaiian and Emperor chains don't form a straight line. About 43 million years ago, the chain takes a sharp bend, with the Emperor seamounts running roughly north-south, while the Hawaiian Islands extend west-northwest. This bend records a change in the direction of Pacific Plate motion, a shift caused by complex interactions with other tectonic plates. The hotspot itself remained stationary, but the plate above it changed course, like a canvas moving in a different direction beneath a stationary paintbrush. Understanding these island chains helps scientists calculate the speed of plate motion. By measuring the distance between islands and knowing their ages, we can determine how fast the plate has moved. The Hawaiian hotspot data suggests the Pacific Plate has moved northwest at rates varying between about 7 and 9 centimeters per year over the past few million years. That's roughly the speed your fingernails grow, imperceptibly slow from day to day, but substantial over geological time. The youngest link in the Hawaiian chain doesn't yet rise above sea level. About 20 miles southeast of the Big Island, a seamount called Lo'ihi is building toward the surface. Its summit currently lies about 3,000 feet below sea level, but it's actively erupting, gradually growing taller. In a few 100,000 years, assuming it remains over the hotspot, Lo'ihi should breach the surface and become the next Hawaiian island. By that time, the current Big Island will have moved northwest and its volcanoes will have become extinct, starved of magma as the plate carries them away from their source. This cycle of birth, growth, and eventual death plays out for all hotspot volcanic islands. Each goes through distinct life stages, beginning with submarine growth, progressing through an active shield-building stage when the island grows rapidly, transitioning to a post-shield stage of less frequent but sometimes more explosive eruptions, and finally entering a rejuvenation stage of sporadic volcanic activity before falling completely silent. The Canary Islands, off the northwest coast of Africa, provide another example of age progression in volcanic island chains. These islands also formed over a hot spot, though one far less active than Hawaii's. The eastern islands, Fuerteventura and Lanzarote, are the oldest, with rocks dating back more than 20 million years. Moving west, the islands get progressively younger. Tenerife, the largest island, is about 12 million years old, while La Palma and El Hierro, the westernmost islands, are less than 2 million years old. El Hierro and La Palma remain volcanically active, with eruptions occurring as recently as 2021 on La Palma, when a new vent opened and poured lava across farmland and villages for 85 days. The Galapagos Islands, straddling the equator about 600 miles west of Ecuador, also show clear age progression. The oldest islands lie to the southeast, while the youngest, Fernandina and Isabella, lie to the west and northwest. Fernandina hosts one of the world's most active volcanoes, which has erupted more than 30 times since the early 1800s. The island is almost entirely covered by fresh, barren lava flows with little vegetation, a stark landscape that shows what young volcanic islands look like before life has had much chance to colonize them. Not all volcanic island chains show such clear age progressions. Where islands form along subduction zones, volcanism can occur simultaneously at multiple locations along the arc, creating islands of similar age. The Aleutian Islands, for instance, are all relatively young in geological terms, most formed within the past few million years, because they all sit above an active subduction zone that continues to supply magma along its entire length. The age of an island profoundly influences its appearance and ecology. Young islands are geologically active, with frequent eruptions, prominent volcanoes, and landscapes dominated by bare rock and recent lava flows. Middle-aged islands have ceased erupting, but retain their volcanic shape, with deep valleys carved into their flanks and rich soils supporting lush vegetation. Old islands have been heavily eroded, their volcanic origins sometimes obscured by millions of years of weathering, their peaks worn down, their valleys deeply incised. Eventually, all volcanic islands must sink and disappear, their mountains ground down by erosion while the seafloor beneath them subsides. From barren rock to living paradise, ecological succession. When a new volcanic island first emerges from the ocean, it is as lifeless as any place on Earth can be. The surface is nothing but naked rock, either sharp clinkers of broken lava or smooth expanses of solidified pahoeho flows. No soil exists. No seeds wait in the ground. No insects crawl among rocks. The only sounds are wind and waves. The only movements are steam and volcanic gases escaping from cooling lava. Nothing lives here. Nothing can live here. Yet. But life, given time, is remarkably persistent. The process by which a sterile landscape transforms into a thriving ecosystem is called primary succession, and volcanic islands provide some of the best natural laboratories for studying this fundamental ecological process. The transformation doesn't happen quickly by human standards, but in geological time, it's almost instantaneous. Within decades, the first pioneers arrive. Within centuries, simple communities establish themselves. Within millennia, complex ecosystems develop that can rival any on Earth for richness and diversity. The very first colonists are often microscopic. Certain bacteria can survive with almost nothing, using chemical reactions rather than photosynthesis to obtain energy. Some chemosynthetic bacteria can metabolize sulfur compounds in volcanic gases, or extract energy from iron minerals in fresh lava. These microorganisms require no soil, no organic matter, nothing but rock and chemistry. They form thin biofilms on lava surfaces, invisible to the naked eye, but representing life's first foothold. Along with bacteria come cyanobacteria, formerly called blue-green algae, which can photosynthesize and thus produce organic matter from sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water. Cyanobacteria are phenomenally hardy. They can survive intense sunlight, extreme temperature fluctuations, and long periods of drought. On fresh lava, they cluster in cracks and depressions where moisture collects, forming small greenish or blackish patches. These patches represent the beginning of soil formation because the bacteria themselves contribute organic matter when they die, and their metabolic processes can begin breaking down minerals in the rock. Lichens arrive early in succession, though exactly how early depends on how remote the island is. Lichens are not single organisms, but symbiotic partnerships between fungi and either algae or cyanobacteria. The fungus provides structure and water retention, while the photosynthetic partner produces food. Together, they can survive on bare rock in conditions where neither could persist alone. Certain species of lichens are pioneer specialists, adapted specifically for colonizing new volcanic substrates. They grow incredibly slowly, perhaps only a millimeter or two per year, but they persist for decades or centuries, gradually expanding their coverage. Lichens accelerate rock weathering through both physical and chemical means. Their fungal threads, called hyphae, penetrate tiny cracks in rock, and as they grow, they exert pressure that can break the rock apart. They also produce organic acids that dissolve certain minerals, releasing nutrients and creating microscopic pockets where water can collect and freeze-thaw cycles can operate. Over time, this weathering produces the first true soil, a thin film of decomposed rock particles mixed with organic matter from dead microorganisms. While these microscopic and small organisms work on the lava surface, seeds and spores arrive, carried by wind, waves, or birds. Most will fail. They'll land in places too dry, too hot, too exposed. They'll germinate and immediately die for lack of nutrients or moisture, but a few will land in favorable microhabitats, tiny pockets where conditions are just right. A crack in the lava might hold a little soil, trap moisture, provide shelter from wind. A depression might collect rainwater. The shade of a rock might reduce evaporation. In these refugia, seeds can germinate and plants can establish themselves. The first plants to colonize are typically ferns, particularly species adapted for pioneering. Ferns reproduce via spores, which are much smaller and lighter than seeds, allowing them to disperse across vast distances on air currents. Some fern species are remarkable colonizers, capable of growing on virtually bare rock with minimal soil. On Hawaiian lava flows, the fern Sadleria often appears within just a few years of an eruption, its fronds emerging from cracks where a little moisture collects. These pioneer plants serve as ecosystem engineers, modifying the environment in ways that make it more hospitable for other species. Their roots penetrate deeper into the rock, creating more cracks for water infiltration. When they die, their organic matter decomposes, adding nutrients and improving soil structure. They create shade, reducing evaporation and temperature extremes. They provide structure, creating microhabitats where insects and other small animals can shelter. Each plant that establishes itself makes it a little easier for the next arrivals to survive. Birds play a crucial role in island colonization, serving as vectors for seeds, nutrients, and even soil. Seabirds are often among the first animals to visit new volcanic islands, attracted by the lack of predators and the proximity to fishing grounds. They nest on the bare rock, and their guano provides a nitrogen-rich fertilizer that dramatically accelerates plant growth in the vicinity of their colonies. Seeds pass through their digestive systems and are deposited with natural fertilizer already attached. Some seeds have specially adapted coatings that help them survive passage through a bird's gut. Over time, as more plants establish themselves and the soil deepens, shrubs begin to appear. These woody plants can grow taller than ferns and grasses, creating more complex structure. They drop leaves that decompose and further enrich the soil. Their deeper root systems can access water and nutrients from greater depths. With shrubs comes increased habitat diversity. Now, there are surfaces at different heights, shade at different intensities, microhabitats of different types. This increased complexity allows more species to coexist. Eventually, if conditions permit, trees arrive. On tropical volcanic islands, trees might establish within just a few decades on young lava flows. On cooler or drier islands, tree colonization might take centuries. The first trees are typically fast-growing pioneer species adapted for dispersal and rapid growth rather than longevity. On Hawaiian lava flows, native trees like Ohia lehua are often among the earliest woody colonizers. Their aoa, wind-dispersed seeds carried from nearby older forests. As the plant community develops, so does the animal community. Insects arrive as adults blown by winds or as eggs attached to birds' feathers. Spiders balloon in on silk threads carried by air currents, a dispersal method that can transport them hundreds of miles. These arthropods find food among the pioneer plants and establish populations. With insects come insectivores. Birds that feed on insects begin visiting regularly, then nesting. Each new species added to the community creates opportunities for others. The timeline for succession varies enormously depending on the island's location, climate, size, and proximity to source populations. On Surtsey, a volcanic island that erupted off Iceland's coast in 1963, scientists have carefully documented the colonization process. Within a year, the first bacteria and molds appeared. By the third year, the first vascular plant, a sea rocket, was found growing on the beach. Seabirds established colonies in the 1970s, and their guano dramatically increased soil fertility. By 2008, researchers had documented 60 species of vascular plants and numerous species of mosses, lichens, fungi, and invertebrates on the island. In contrast, on Krakatoa, which was completely sterilized by its catastrophic 1883 eruption, succession proceeded more rapidly because of the island's tropical location and proximity to Java and Sumatra. Within 3 years, researchers found 15 species of flowering plants on the devastated island. By 1920, less than 40 years after the eruption, the island supported dense forest. A 1982 survey documented over 200 species of plants and animals, though the community composition continues to change as new arrivals establish themselves and early colonists are outcompeted. The endpoint of succession on volcanic islands is typically some type of forest, though the specific type depends on climate. Tropical volcanic islands develop rainforests. Temperate islands develop broad-leaved or coniferous forests, and drier islands might develop scrublands or grasslands. These mature ecosystems can support remarkable biodiversity, with hundreds or thousands of species interacting in complex food webs. The transformation from sterile lava to mature forest can take anywhere from decades to tens of thousands of years. But eventually, all trace of the original bare rock disappears beneath vegetation. Throughout this process, nutrients accumulate in the system. Early colonists obtain nitrogen from the atmosphere through bacteriofixation or from guano. As organisms die and decompose, their nutrients are retained in the soil and biomass, gradually building up the nutrient capital that allows more complex ecosystems to develop. Soil depth increases as weathering breaks down more rock and organic matter accumulates. What started as a fraction of an inch of weathered rock mixed with dead bacteria becomes inches, then feet of rich, dark soil teeming with life. Yet succession on volcanic islands is not a smooth, unidirectional process. Eruptions can reset portions of the landscape to bare rock, creating a patchwork of different successional stages. Lava flows might destroy mature forest on one side of a volcano while leaving the other side untouched, creating a landscape of shocking contrasts where barren lava meets lush vegetation at a knife-edge boundary. This creates complex ecosystems where species from all successional stages coexist, with pioneer species on recent flows adjacent to mature forest communities on older substrates, islands of uniqueness, endemic species and evolution. The most remarkable feature of volcanic islands is not their geology, but their biology. These isolated fragments of land, separated from continents by hundreds or thousands of miles of ocean, become evolutionary laboratories where life follows trajectories impossible anywhere else. The result is a concentration of endemic species, organisms found nowhere else on Earth. Earth, unlike anything on nearby continents or even neighboring islands. Endemism reaches extraordinary levels on volcanic islands. In Hawaii, approximately 90% of native species are endemic, found nowhere else in the world. The Galapagos Islands harbor hundreds of endemic species, including marine iguanas, flightless cormorants, and the famous Darwin's finches. Madagascar, a large continental island with volcanic components, has endemism rates exceeding 80% for some groups. On smaller islands, entire ecosystems can be endemic, with every plant, every insect, every bird existing nowhere else. This extraordinary endemism results from isolation combined with evolutionary time. When organisms first colonize a volcanic island, they arrive from somewhere else, carrying with them the genetic heritage of their source populations. But once established on the island, they are cut off from their ancestral populations. Gene flow ceases. the island population begins evolving independently, subject to its own unique set of environmental pressures, ecological opportunities, and random genetic changes. Natural selection operates differently on islands than on continents. Islands typically have fewer species, meaning less competition but also fewer predators. They have limited area, often with diverse microclimates packed into small spaces due to mountainous topography. Resources are different from those on continents. These conditions create novel selection pressures that push evolution in unexpected directions. One of the most famous evolutionary phenomena on islands is adaptive radiation, where a single ancestral species diversifies into multiple descendant species, each adapted to a different ecological niche. The textbook example is Darwin's finches in the Galapagos, a group of related species that evolved from a common ancestor that colonized the islands from mainland South America approximately 2 to 3 million years ago. That original finch encountered islands with no other songbirds but with diverse food sources: large seeds, small seeds, insects, nectar, and even blood from seabirds. Over time, populations on different islands and in different habitats diverged. Evolving beaks adapted to their specific food sources. The result is astonishing. Today, there are about 15 recognized species of Darwin's finches, with beak shapes ranging from massive, parrot-like structures for cracking large, hard seeds to delicate, warbler-like beaks for gleaning insects. One species, the woodpecker finch, has evolved the behavior of using cactus spines as tools to extract insects from bark crevices, a remarkable example of tool use in a non-primate. These finches show evolution in action, with researchers having documented observable changes in beak size and shape over just a few generations in response to drought conditions that altered seed availability. Hawaii hosts even more spectacular examples of adaptive radiation. The Hawaiian honey creepers, a group of over 50 species, all evolved from a single ancestral finch that colonized the islands approximately 5 to 7 million years ago. These birds evolved into an astonishing array of forms, from short-beaked seed-eaters to long curved-beak nectar sippers to insect hunters with straight, pointed beaks. Tragically, more than half of the honeycreeper species have gone extinct since human arrival, victims of habitat loss, introduced predators, and avian diseases carried by introduced mosquitoes. The surviving species face an uncertain future. Hawaiian fruit flies show perhaps the most extreme adaptive radiation known. From a single ancestral species that arrived perhaps 25 million years ago, more than 800 species of Drosophilid flies have evolved in Hawaii. These species show remarkable diversity in mating behaviors, wing patterns, body sizes, and ecological niches. Some are highly host-specific, each species breeding in only one type of decaying plant material. Others display elaborate courtship rituals with specialized wing patterns and movements. The sheer number of species in such a small area represents one of nature's most impressive evolutionary experiments. Island isolation also leads to unusual evolutionary trends. The absence of mammalian predators on many volcanic islands has led to the evolution of flightlessness in multiple bird lineages. Flight is metabolically expensive, and if there are no predators to escape from, the energetic costs of maintaining flight capability outweigh the benefits. The Galapagos cormorant lost its ability to fly, evolving stubby wings useful only for balance while swimming. Several Hawaiian bird species became flightless, though all are now extinct, victims of rats, cats, and mongooses introduced by humans. Gigantism sometimes evolves on islands in the absence of large mammalian predators or competitors. Before humans arrived in New Zealand, giant flightless birds called moa dominated the landscape with the largest species standing over 12 feet tall and weighing up to 100 pounds. Insects can also become giants. The tree weta of New Zealand are enormous crickets that can weigh as much as a mouse. Hawaiian damselflies are among the world's largest, with wingspans exceeding 4 inches. Conversely, island populations sometimes evolve dwarfism. Large mammals stranded on small islands with limited food resources face strong selection for smaller body size. The Mediterranean islands once hosted dwarf elephants, some species no taller than a modern pig, which evolved from full-sized elephants that somehow reached the islands during periods of lower sea level. Dwarf hippos evolved on Cyprus and other Mediterranean islands. These miniature megafauna all went extinct, likely hunted to extinction by early human settlers. Plant evolution on islands produces equally strange results. Many Hawaiian plants evolved from herbaceous ancestors into woody forms, a phenomenon called secondary woodiness. Without browsing mammals, plants that would normally be soft-stemmed herbs on continents evolved into tough-barked shrubs and trees. The Hawaiian Silversword Alliance, a group of closely related plants that includes everything from ground-hugging rosettes to large trees, all evolved from a single herbaceous ancestor in the sunflower family that colonized the islands around 5 million years ago. Island plants often lose defenses they don't need. Many Hawaiian plants have no spines, thorns, or chemical defenses against herbivores because there were no native browsing mammals to defend against. These plants were sitting ducks when goats, pigs, cattle, and deer were introduced by humans. Similarly, some island fruits lost their attractiveness to seed dispersers after their disperser went extinct. The Hawaiian mint stenogine features large nuts that were probably dispersed by now extinct flightless birds. With their dispersers gone, these plants have trouble spreading to new areas. The extreme endemism on volcanic islands makes them biodiversity treasures, but also makes them extraordinarily vulnerable. Each species exists in a limited area, often with small populations. If that habitat is destroyed, or a new predator or disease is introduced, there's nowhere for the species to retreat to, no outside population to recolonize from. Island species are specialists in their particular environments, finely tuned to conditions that may exist only on their home island, or even only in one valley or on one mountain. This specialization makes them successful in their native context, but helpless when conditions change. Evolution on volcanic islands demonstrates that life doesn't need vast continents and deep time to produce remarkable diversity. Given isolation, ecological opportunity, and just a few million years, a handful of colonizing species can diversify into hundreds of unique forms. Volcanic islands are evolution's proving grounds, places where the mechanisms of adaptation, speciation, and extinction play out on accelerated timescales in simplified ecosystems that allow us to see patterns obscured by the complexity of the continental biotas. The hidden life, biodiversity hotspots. Despite occupying only a tiny fraction of Earth's land surface, volcanic islands punch far above their weight when it comes to biodiversity. Scientists estimate that islands comprise about 7% of Earth's land area but host approximately 20% of all plant, bird, and reptile species. This disproportionate contribution to global biodiversity makes islands, and especially volcanic islands, critical conservation priorities. The biodiversity of volcanic islands exists in multiple layers. The most visible layer consists of forests, birds, and flowering plants, the charismatic species that appear in nature documentaries. But beneath and beyond this visible layer exists a largely hidden world of invertebrates, microbes, and cryptic species that form the functional backbone of island ecosystems. In Hawaiian forests, thousands of species of native insects exist, most found nowhere else. Many are specialists, each species associated with a particular plant or occupying a specific niche. Some Hawaiian caterpillars have evolved carnivorous habits, unique among butterflies and moths, hunting and eating small flies and other insects. Hawaiian damselflies occupy diverse niches, from stream species that cling to rocks in rushing water to forest species that hunt among ferns. Each species represents an evolutionary experiment, a unique solution to the challenges of island life. Spiders show remarkable diversity on volcanic islands. Hawaii hosts over 350 native spider species, most endemic, adapted to environments from sea-level caves to alpine cinder deserts at 10,000 feet elevation. Some species build webs, others hunt actively, and some have evolved specialized techniques found nowhere else. The Hawaiian happy-face spider gets its name from markings on its abdomen that resemble a smiling face, though color patterns vary dramatically between individuals. The invertebrate fauna of volcanic islands often includes relict species, ancient lineages that have survived on islands long after going extinct on continents. New Zealand's tuatara, often called a living fossil, is the only surviving member of an order of reptiles that thrived during the dinosaur era. It persists only on predator-free islands around New Zealand, a 200-million-year-old lineage that survived while its relatives disappeared from everywhere else on Earth. Volcanic islands also harbor remarkable marine biodiversity in the waters surrounding them. Coral reefs fringe many tropical volcanic islands. Built by colonies of tiny polyps over thousands of years. These reefs support fish diversity that rivals or exceeds tropical rainforests in species richness. A single reef system might harbor 1,000 species of fish, each occupying its particular niche, from cleaners that pick parasites off larger fish to predators that hunt in the open water to herbivores that graze on algae. The Hawaiian Islands alone host more than 7,000 marine species, about 1/4 of them endemic, despite the connectivity of ocean waters. This high endemism in marine environments is unusual and reflects Hawaii's extreme isolation. Marine organisms with limited dispersal ability, particularly those with larvae that don't travel far, can evolve into distinct species on isolated island chains. Hawaiian reef fish include species found nowhere else, some restricted to single islands or even particular reefs. Volcanic islands often feature unique freshwater ecosystems in their mountain streams and crater lakes. These aquatic habitats can be home to highly specialized species. Hawaiian streams support 5 species of endemic gobies, small fish that spend part of their life cycle in fresh water and part in the ocean. They evolved remarkable climbing abilities, scaling waterfalls up to several hundred feet high to reach upstream habitats. Some volcanic crater lakes become isolated worlds unto themselves. Lake Tondano in Indonesia, occupying a volcanic crater, hosts several endemic fish species that evolved within this single lake. Crater Lake in Oregon, filling a caldera formed by the eruption and collapse of Mount Mazama about 7,700 years ago, initially had no fish at all, but now supports introduced trout populations in water so pure and deep that it appears an almost supernatural shade of blue. Bird diversity on volcanic islands reflects both evolution and extinction. Many islands have lost a significant portion of their native bird fauna to human impacts. But what remains, or is known from fossils, reveals astonishing diversity. Hawaii, before human arrival, hosted over 140 species of endemic birds, many found only on single islands or in specific habitats. Flightless geese, flightless ibises, rails adapted to different forest types, owls that hunted during the day, all evolved in Hawaii. More than 70 of these species have gone extinct since Polynesian colonization around 1,000 years ago, with extinctions accelerating after European contact. The Galapagos Islands support 56 resident bird species, of which 45 are endemic. Beyond the famous finches, these include the Galapagos penguin, the world's most northerly penguin species, and the flightless cormorant, which lost its ability to fly but gained enhanced diving ability. The waved albatross breeds almost exclusively on Hispaniola Island, gathering in colonies to perform elaborate courtship dances before heading out to sea for months of hunting. Reptiles thrive on many volcanic islands, particularly in tropical regions. The Galapagos hosts giant tortoises that can weigh over 500 pounds and live for more than 1 to 50 years. Each island's tortoise population evolved slightly different shell shapes adapted to the vegetation and terrain of that particular island. Saddle-backed shells evolved on arid islands where tortoises needed to reach high for food, while dome-shaped shells characterize tortoises from islands with more abundant low-growing vegetation. Marine iguanas, found only in the Galapagos, represent the world's only ocean-going lizards. They swim in cold waters, diving to depths of 30 feet or more to graze on algae growing on underwater rocks. When they return to shore, they bask on black lava rocks to warm up, often lying in piles dozens of animals deep. During the breeding season, males develop bright coloration, turning red and green, and engage in headbutting contests to establish territories. Plant diversity on volcanic islands creates the foundation for all other biodiversity. Hawaii hosts approximately 1,000 species of native flowering plants, roughly 90% of them endemic. These range from tiny herbs less than an inch tall to massive koa trees that can exceed 100 feet in height and 6 feet in diameter. The diversity of forms, colors, and adaptations is staggering, all evolved from perhaps 300 successful colonizing lineages over 70 million years. Many island plants depend on endemic pollinators, creating specialized relationships between species. Some Hawaiian plants evolved curved flowers matched to the curved beaks of native honey creepers. With many honey creepers now extinct, these plants have lost their pollinators and are at risk themselves. Other plants depend on specific insects or even on birds like the Japanese white-eye, an introduced species that has partially filled the pollination gap left by extinct natives. The biodiversity of volcanic islands represents millions of years of evolution, thousands of unique adaptations, and countless ecological relationships found nowhere else. Each species, no matter how small or obscure, plays a role in its ecosystem. Each represents a unique genetic library, a set of solutions to environmental challenges that might hold insights useful for medicine, agriculture, or simply understanding how life works. When an island species goes extinct, we lose not just that species, but all the knowledge encoded in its genes and all the ecological connections it maintained. Living on the edge, human settlement and culture. Humans have been drawn to volcanic islands for millennia, attracted by fertile soils, abundant marine resources, and strategic locations. Despite the obvious risks of living on active volcanoes, people have established thriving communities on volcanic islands from Iceland to Indonesia, developing unique cultures shaped by their volcanic environments. The Polynesian settlement of the Hawaiian Islands represents one of humanity's most impressive feats of navigation and colonization. Around 1,000 to 200 years ago, Polynesian voyagers sailed double-hulled canoes across thousands of miles of open ocean, navigating by stars, waves, and seabirds to discover and settle islands scattered across the Pacific. These early settlers brought with them plants and animals from their homeland, including taro, breadfruit, chickens, pigs, and dogs. They developed sophisticated agricultural systems and aquaculture practices, building fish ponds and terraced fields that supported populations eventually numbering in the hundreds of thousands. Hawaiian culture developed in deep relationship with the volcanic landscape. Volcanoes were seen as sacred, home to powerful deities. Pele, the goddess of volcanoes and fire, was believed to dwell in Halemaumau crater at Kilauea's summit. Elaborate protocols governed interactions with volcanic features. Certain areas were kapu, forbidden except under specific circumstances. Hawaiians recognized that volcanic eruptions could be destructive but also life-giving, creating new land and fertile soils. Traditional Hawaiian society developed without metals, without large domestic animals for transport, and without writing, yet created complex social systems, impressive engineering works, and sophisticated knowledge systems. They built temples called heiau from lava rock. some covering acres and incorporating astronomical alignments. They carved petroglyphs into lava flows, creating vast fields of rock art whose meanings we are still interpreting. They developed oral traditions preserving genealogies, histories, and environmental knowledge spanning many generations. In Iceland, human settlement dates to around 870 CE, when Norse Vikings seeking new lands discovered an island of fire and ice. They established farming communities despite the challenging environment, developing unique architectural styles adapted to volcanic materials and harsh weather. Icelandic homes were built partially underground for insulation, with thick turf walls and roofs. The people learned to use geothermal heat, bathing in natural hot springs, and even using them for food preparation. Icelandic culture developed in isolation, preserving ancient Norse language and traditions that evolved elsewhere. The sagas, epic prose narratives written in the 13th and 14th centuries, preserve stories, histories, and laws from the Viking Age. The Althing, Iceland's parliament, founded in 930 CE at Thingvellir, is one of the world's oldest representative assemblies. It met in the open air at a site where two tectonic plates pull apart, a place of both geological and cultural significance. Living with active volcanoes requires constant awareness of risks and development of early warning systems. In Iceland, volcanic eruptions occur on average every 3 to 4 years. Most are small and affect remote areas, but some impact populated regions. The 2010 eruption of Eyjafjallajökull produced an enormous ash plume that shut down European airspace for days, stranding millions of travelers. Icelanders have learned to monitor volcanic activity closely, evacuating areas at risk when tremors and gas emissions signal an impending eruption. Indonesia, an archipelago of over 17,000 islands, including many volcanic ones, has more active volcanoes than any other country, around 130. About 140 million people live within 60 miles of an active volcano. The volcanic soils are incredibly fertile, supporting rice paddies, vegetable gardens, and plantation crops. But the volcanic hazard is real and sometimes catastrophic. The 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora on Sumbawa killed at least 71,000 people directly and caused global climate effects that led to crop failures and famine in distant lands. Despite these hazards, people continue living on volcanic islands because the benefits outweigh the risks for most. Volcanic soils, enriched by minerals from weathered lava and ash, are among the world's most productive. Where volcanic ash falls regularly, as in Java, farmers can harvest multiple crops per year, feeding dense populations. The slopes of Mount Merapi, one of Indonesia's most active and dangerous volcanoes, support thriving communities that return to rebuild after every eruption, drawn back by the productive land. Volcanic islands also offer geothermal energy, heat from Earth's interior that can generate electricity and provide direct heating. Iceland derives about 85% of its domestic heating and hot water from geothermal sources, and about 25% of its electricity from geothermal power plants. This abundant renewable energy has transformed Iceland's economy, supporting energy-intensive industries like aluminum smelting while keeping carbon emissions low. In New Zealand, Kenya, the Philippines, and many other volcanic regions, geothermal power contributes significantly to energy supplies. Cultural identities on volcanic islands often intertwine with volcanic features. Maori culture in New Zealand recognizes volcanoes as ancestors, incorporating them into genealogies and spiritual practices. Many volcanic peaks are considered sacred. Mount Taranaki on New Zealand's North Island is seen as an ancestor in Maori tradition, and protocols govern access to and behavior on the mountain. The geothermal areas around Rotorua are culturally significant, with hot springs and geysers playing roles in traditional practices and stories. Tourism has become economically vital for many volcanic islands. Visitors come to witness active lava flows, hike volcanic craters, snorkel above coral reefs, and experience unique ecosystems. In Hawaii, Volcanoes National Park attracts over 1 million visitors per year, contributing hundreds of millions of dollars to the local economy. The Galapagos Islands host about 275,000 visitors annually, carefully managed to minimize impact on fragile ecosystems. Iceland has seen explosive tourism growth, with visitors drawn by volcanic landscapes, northern lights, and geothermal spas. However, this as tourism brings challenges. Popular sites suffer from overuse, trails erode, wildlife is disturbed, and local cultures can be overwhelmed by outside influences. Balancing economic benefits against environmental and cultural preservation requires careful management. Limits on visitor numbers and investment in infrastructure and education. Some islands have implemented permit systems, restricted access to sensitive areas, and required guides to accompany visitors. The restless earth, volcanic hazards and activity. Living on a volcanic island means accepting a certain level of risk. While most volcanic activity is relatively benign, consisting of slow lava flows that destroy property but allow people time to evacuate, some eruptions are explosive and deadly. Understanding volcanic hazards and monitoring volcanic activity are crucial for protecting lives and property. The most obvious hazard is lava flows. When a volcano erupts, molten rock pours from vents and flows downhill, following topography toward lower elevations. Hawaiian lava flows typically move slowly, often just a few hundred feet per hour, allowing people to move out of their path. But they are unstoppable, covering everything in their path with rock that hardens into permanent new surface. Since 1983, lava flows from Kilauea have destroyed over 200 structures and covered more than 50 square miles of land. Residents watch helplessly as glowing rivers advance toward their homes, knowing there's nothing to be done except evacuate and hope the flow changes direction. Explosive eruptions pose greater immediate danger. When magma contains high gas content and is viscous enough to trap those gases, pressure builds until the volcano explodes, sending ash, rock fragments, and volcanic gases high into the atmosphere. Pyroclastic flows, avalanches of hot gas and rock fragments, race down volcanic slopes at speeds up to 400 miles per hour, incinerating everything in their path. The 1902 eruption of Mount Pelée on Martinique produced pyroclastic flows that destroyed the city of Saint-Pierre, killing an estimated 30,000 people in minutes. Volcanic ash poses hazards even far from the eruption site. Fine particles carried by wind can travel hundreds or thousands of miles, falling like gray snow and accumulating in thick layers. Ash damages crops, contaminates water supplies, collapses roofs under its weight, and causes respiratory problems. It abrades aircraft engines and can cause planes to fail in flight. The 2010 Eyjafjallajökull eruption in Iceland produced relatively little lava but generated enormous ash clouds that grounded air traffic across Europe for 6 days, stranding 10 million passengers. Volcanic gases can be deadly. Carbon dioxide, being heavier than air, can accumulate in depressions and displace oxygen, suffocating anyone who enters. In 1986, Lake Nyos in Cameroon, a volcanic crater lake, released a massive burst of dissolved carbon dioxide that flowed down valleys, killing over 1,700 people and thousands of animals as they slept. Sulfur dioxide causes acid rain and can trigger respiratory distress. Hydrogen sulfide smells like rotten eggs at low concentrations, but paralyzes the sense of smell at higher concentrations, making it especially dangerous. Volcanic eruptions can trigger other hazards. Lahars, volcanic mud flows, occur when eruptions melt snow and ice on a volcano's summit, or when heavy rains mobilize loose ash and rock. These fast-moving slurries can travel far down river valleys, burying communities. The 1985 eruption of Nevado del Ruiz in Colombia melted glacial ice that mixed with ash to form lahars. These flows traveled over 60 miles, destroying the town of Armero and killing more than 30,000 people. Submarine eruptions and volcanic collapses can generate tsunamis. When part of a volcanic island collapses into the ocean, or when an underwater eruption displaces huge volumes of water, massive waves radiate outward at hundreds of miles per hour. The 1883 Krakatoa eruption generated tsunamis up to 120 feet high that killed over 36,000 people on nearby coasts. The collapse of volcanic islands can create even larger tsunamis. Scientists have found evidence of ancient megatsunamis in Hawaii, probably caused by massive landslides from the flanks of volcanoes. Modern volcanic monitoring uses multiple techniques to detect signs of awakening volcanoes. Seismometers detect the earthquakes that typically precede eruptions as magma forces its way upward, fracturing rock. Ground deformation measurements using GPS and satellite radar show when a volcano is inflating as magma accumulates beneath it. Gas sensors detect changes in the composition and amount of gases escaping from volcanic vents, often the first sign of fresh magma rising toward the surface. The United States Geological Survey operates the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory, continuously monitoring Kilauea and Mauna Loa since 1912. Dozens of sensors track every earthquake, measure ground deformation down to fractions of an inch, sample volcanic gases, and observe visual changes. When an eruption threatens, scientists can often provide hours or days of warning, allowing authorities to evacuate at-risk areas and close threatened roads. Not all volcanoes are predictable, however. Some awaken with little warning. Others show signs of unrest that don't lead to eruptions. Phreatic eruptions, caused by groundwater flashing to steam when heated by magma, can occur with almost no precursors. The challenge for scientists is distinguishing between genuine threats requiring evacuation and false alarms that might needlessly disrupt lives and livelihoods. Despite advances in monitoring, volcanic eruptions remain somewhat unpredictable. Scientists can often recognize when a volcano is becoming more active, but predicting exactly when and how it will erupt remains difficult. Eruptions can be short-lived or continue for years. They can be gentle or explosive. The course of an eruption can change rapidly as gas content, magma supply, and other factors shift. The volcanic hazard is real, but statistics provide perspective. Worldwide, volcanic eruptions kill an average of a few hundred people per year, far fewer than floods, earthquakes, or storms. Most volcanic islands go decades or centuries between eruptions. For people living on these islands, volcanic risk is background noise, acknowledged but not dwelled upon, like earthquake risk in California or hurricane risk in Florida. Life goes on, communities thrive, and the benefits of rich soils, geothermal energy, and spectacular scenery outweigh the occasional volcanic disruption. Climate architects, islands, and weather patterns. Volcanic islands don't just sit passively in their oceanic settings. They actively shape the weather and climate around them, creating patterns of rainfall, temperature, and wind that can vary dramatically over short distances. Understanding these patterns helps explain the incredible diversity of ecosystems packed into relatively small areas. The dominant effect volcanic islands have on climate is orographic, related to their topography. When moisture-laden trade winds encounter a volcanic mountain rising from the sea, the air is forced upward. As it rises, it expands and cools. Cool air can't hold as much moisture as warm air, so water vapor condenses, forming clouds and precipitation. The result is that the windward side of volcanic islands, facing the prevailing winds, receives far more rainfall than the leeward side. Hawaii provides a dramatic example. The island of Kauai has one of the wettest places on Earth, Mount Waialeale, which receives an average of about 450 inches of rain per year. Yet, just a few miles away on the island's leeward side, some areas get less than 20 inches annually. This tenfold difference over a distance you could drive in half an hour creates completely different ecosystems. The windward slopes support lush rainforests dripping with moisture, their trees festooned with epiphytes and mosses. The leeward sides are semi-arid, with scrubby vegetation adapted to drought. This pattern repeats on volcanic islands worldwide. In the Canary Islands, the northeastern trade winds bring moisture to north and east-facing slopes, creating evergreen cloud forests, while southern and western slopes bake in sun and support only drought-resistant plants. On Hawaii's Big Island, Hilo on the wet windward side receives about 130 inches of rain per year, while Kailua Kona on the dry leeward side gets about 18 inches. Elevation creates additional climate variation. Temperature drops about 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit for every 1,000 feet of elevation gain, meaning the summit of a tall volcano can be 20 or 30 degrees cooler than sea level. Combined with changes in rainfall patterns at different elevations, this creates distinct climate zones stacked like layers of a cake. On Hawaii's Mauna Kea, you can experience multiple climate zones in a single day of driving. Start at sea level in tropical warmth. Ascend through rainforest in the lowlands, tree ferns creating a green tunnel over the road. Continue up into cloud forest at middle elevations, where clouds frequently shroud the slopes and moisture drips from every tang surface. Higher still, break through the clouds into subalpine woodlands where hardy trees eke out existence in thin soil and cold temperatures. Near the summit, at almost 14,000 feet, enter an alpine desert where only specialized plants survive and snow can fall any month of the year. The summit observatories, among the best astronomical sites on Earth, sit above 40% of Earth's atmosphere and air so dry and thin that altitude sickness affects many visitors. Volcanic islands also create their own local wind patterns. During the day, land heats faster than the surrounding ocean, causing air to rise over the island. This draws in cooler marine air, creating onshore breezes. At night, the pattern reverses as land cools faster than water, creating offshore breezes. These daily cycles produce consistent wind patterns that sailors have exploited for centuries. Some volcanic islands generate clouds through purely local processes. The warm ocean surface evaporates water continuously. When this moist air encounters a volcanic island, it rises, cools, and forms clouds even if there's no regional weather system bringing moisture. These clouds often hover at specific elevations, creating the famous trade wind cloud layer seen on many tropical volcanic islands. Below this layer, conditions are clear and dry. Above it, the air is also relatively dry. But right at the cloud level, conditions are persistently misty and humid. This cloud layer supports unique ecosystems. Cloud forests, found at the elevation where trade wind clouds form, experience near constant moisture even if little measurable rain falls. Water condenses directly on vegetation, dripping from leaves and running down bark. Mosses and ferns thrive, covering every surface. These forests are hauntingly beautiful, perpetually shrouded in mist, their trees gnarled and draped with epiphytes. They also serve crucial hydrological functions, capturing water from clouds and feeding it into streams and aquifers. Climate change threatens these cloud forests. As global temperatures rise, the elevation of the trade wind cloud layer is predicted to increase, potentially stranding high elevation cloud forests above the clouds. If the clouds move higher, these forests will become drier, unable to survive without their constant moisture source. Some species adapted specifically to cloud forest conditions might have nowhere to go. Volcanic islands can influence regional weather patterns beyond their immediate area. Large volcanic eruptions inject enormous quantities of ash and sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere, where it can circle the globe and affect climate worldwide. The 1815 eruption of Tambora caused the year without a summer in 1816, when global temperatures dropped enough to cause crop failures and food shortages across the northern hemisphere. The 1883 Krakatoa eruption lowered global temperatures by more than 1 degree Fahrenheit and produced spectacular sunsets visible worldwide for months. Even without major eruptions, volcanic islands contribute to regional weather. They serve as stepping stones for storms tracking across oceans, influencing storm tracks and rainfall patterns. They affect ocean currents, creating upwelling zones where nutrient-rich deep water rises to the surface, supporting productive marine ecosystems. The complex interactions between volcanic islands, oceans, and atmosphere remain active areas of research. Under threat, conservation challenges. The biological treasures of volcanic islands face unprecedented threats. Species that evolved in isolation over millions of years are encountering challenges they have no evolutionary experience with. Invasive species, habitat destruction, climate change, and disease. The result has been an extinction crisis of staggering proportions, with island species disappearing at rates far exceeding those on continents. The fundamental problem is that island species are specialists, adapted to specific conditions and often lacking defenses against threats that are common on continents. Island birds often lost their fear of mammals because no mammalian predators existed on their islands. Island plants lost their thorns and toxins because no browsers threatened them. When humans arrived on islands, bringing with them rats, cats, pigs, goats, and mongooses, native species were sitting ducks. Rats eat eggs and nestlings, driving ground-nesting birds to extinction. Cats hunt native birds that evolved no fear of predators. Pigs root through forest understory, destroying native plants. Goats browse vegetation down to bare rock. Hawaii has lost at least 77 bird species since Polynesian settlement, more than half its original avifauna. 33 species have gone extinct since Western contact in 778. Currently, about 1/3 of the United States' threatened and endangered species are Hawaiian, despite Hawaii comprising less than 0.2% of the nation's land area. The Hawaiian crow is extinct in the wild, surviving only in captivity. Dozens of other Hawaiian bird species are critically endangered, clinging to existence in small populations vulnerable to disease, habitat loss, and random catastrophic events. Avian malaria and avian pox, diseases carried by introduced mosquitoes, have devastated Hawaiian forest birds. These diseases arrived in the 19th century, but spread slowly at first because mosquitoes couldn't survive at high elevations. As climate warms, mosquitoes are moving upslope, invading the last disease-free refuges where native birds survive. Many species now persist only above the mosquito line, roughly 4,000 to 2,000 feet elevation. As temperatures rise and mosquitoes reach higher elevations, these species face extinction unless they can evolve resistance to the diseases or scientists can find ways to eliminate mosquitoes from native forests. Invasive plants pose another serious threat. On many volcanic islands, aggressive non-native plants outcompete natives, transforming ecosystems. In Hawaii, introduced fountain grass invades lava flows, growing in dense stands that fuel wildfires far more intense than native ecosystems can tolerate. Native plants that evolved without fire are killed, and the grass returns quickly after burning, creating a grass fire cycle that converts native shrublands to non-native grasslands. Miconia, a tree from Central and South America, has become one of Hawaii's worst invasive species, forming dense monocultures that shade out all native understory plants. In Tahiti, Miconia has conquered more than 70% of the island, transforming diverse native forests into Miconia thickets with virtually no native species remaining. Efforts to control Miconia in Hawaii have had some success, but eradication seems impossible given how widely it has spread. On the Galapagos, introduced goats nearly destroyed ecosystems on several islands, browsing vegetation down to bare rock and causing erosion that washed away soil. Eradication campaigns using helicopters, trained hunters, and Judas goats fitted with radio collars to lead hunters to remaining animals succeeded in removing goats from several islands. Following goat removal, vegetation has recovered remarkably, demonstrating ecosystem resilience when threats are removed. Climate change poses existential threats to volcanic islands through multiple mechanisms. Rising sea levels threaten coastal ecosystems and low-lying areas. Many islands have narrow coastal plains where human infrastructure concentrates. Even modest sea level rise can inundate these areas, forcing communities to retreat upslope. Changing precipitation patterns affect water resources. Some volcanic islands may become drier as climate patterns shift, stressing ecosystems and human populations dependent on rainfall. Others may experience more intense storms and flooding. The cloud forests, found at specific elevations on many volcanic islands, face particular risk if the cloud layer moves upward with warming temperatures. Ocean warming and acidification threaten coral reefs surrounding volcanic islands. Corals are sensitive to temperature, bleaching and dying when water becomes too warm. Mass bleaching events have become more frequent and severe. Ocean acidification, caused by the ocean absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, makes it harder for corals and other marine organisms to build their calcium carbonate skeletons and shells. Reef degradation reduces the habitat available for fish and invertebrates, impacting both biodiversity and the fisheries many island communities depend on. For some island species, climate change removes any remaining habitat. High elevation specialists have nowhere to go as temperatures warm. They're effectively trapped on mountaintops, with their suitable habitat shrinking as the climate envelope they can tolerate moves upward. Eventually, they reach the summit with nowhere left to move. This is already happening to some Hawaiian species adapted to the cool, misty conditions of high-elevation forests. Conservation on volcanic islands requires intensive, expensive, and long-term efforts. Fencing can protect areas from introduced ungulates. Predator control programs use traps and poison to reduce populations of rats, cats, and mongooses. Captive breeding programs maintain populations of critically endangered species until safe habitat can be restored for their release. Habitat restoration involves removing invasive plants, replanting natives, and sometimes manually fertilizing and watering plants until they can establish. On some islands, conservation has succeeded spectacularly. Rat eradication on islands where they were accidentally introduced has allowed native seabirds to return and breed successfully. On several Hawaiian islands, fences exclude pigs and goats from watershed forests, allowing native plants to recover. On the Galapagos, careful management of tourism and strict quarantine procedures minimize the introduction of new invasive species. But conservation efforts struggle against the sheer scale of threats. Thousands of non-native species have established on volcanic islands worldwide. Eradicating them all is impossible. Climate change continues regardless of local actions. Funding for conservation is always limited, forcing painful choices about which species and areas to prioritize. Despite heroic efforts, extinctions continue, and many island species are heading toward extinction unless current trends reverse. The loss of island species represents more than a tragedy for biodiversity. It's a loss of evolution's experiments, of unique adaptations and ecological relationships developed over millions of years. It's a loss of potential, as each species might have contributed to human well-being through undiscovered compounds, behaviors, or ecosystem services. It's a loss of heritage, particularly for island cultures whose identities are intertwined with native species. Once a species goes extinct, it's gone forever, along with all it could have taught us about life's possibilities. Conclusion: Timeless Wonders. As we come to the end of our journey through the world of volcanic islands, let your mind drift back over the landscapes we've explored together. Picture lava flowing into the sea, steam rising where fire meets water, new land being born in a hiss of cooling rock. Imagine seeds carried on ocean winds, finding purchase in cracks where a few grains of soil have accumulated, beginning the long transformation from barren stone to living forest. See in your mind's eye the extraordinary creatures that evolved on these isolated fragments of land, each species a unique expression of life's creativity. Volcanic islands are remarkable not just for their dramatic geology or unique biodiversity, but for what they represent about our planet and about life itself. They remind us that Earth is dynamic, constantly reshaping itself through forces that operate on scales far beyond human perception. They demonstrate life's persistence and adaptability, showing how even the most barren environments can, given time, blossom into ecosystems of staggering complexity. They serve as living laboratories where we can observe evolution, ecology, and geology in action, where processes that normally take millions of years sometimes play out rapidly enough for us to study them. These islands are also monuments to fragility. Species that took millions of years to evolve can disappear in decades when conditions change too rapidly for them to adapt. Ecosystems that assembled themselves through countless chance colonizations over eons can be dismantled in a generation by introduced predators or invasive plants. The story of volcanic islands in recent centuries has too often been one of loss, of species driven to extinction, of ecosystems transformed beyond recognition. Yet there is hope. When we intervene carefully and persistently, when we remove threats and protect habitat, these ecosystems show remarkable resilience. Species bounce back, forests regenerate, and some of what was lost can be restored. It won't be exactly as it was before because some species are gone forever and ecosystems have been permanently altered. But life persists, adapts, and continues creating beauty in new forms. Volcanic islands teach us about the interconnectedness of all things. A volcano erupts, and global climate changes. A species goes extinct on one island, and the ecosystem shifts, affecting dozens of other species. Trade winds bring moisture from oceans thousands of miles away, creating rainforests on specific mountainsides. Everything connects to everything else in intricate webs of cause and effect that we are only beginning to understand. These islands remind us of our responsibility. We did not create volcanic islands, but we have changed them profoundly. The extinctions, the invasive species, the habitat destruction. These are human legacies that will echo through the millennia. But we also have the knowledge, the tools, and increasingly the will to do better. Every rat eradicated from an island, every native tree planted, every endangered species brought back from the brink represents a choice to protect rather than destroy, to restore rather than exploit. If you've found peace and wonder in this exploration of volcanic islands, I invite you once more to like this video and subscribe to the Sleepy Science Society. Your support helps create more of these gentle journeys through science and nature, bringing knowledge and comfort to others who seek understanding in the quiet hours. But whether you subscribe or not, I hope you'll carry with you some sense of the marvel these islands represent. The next time you see a map and notice a small island in the middle of a vast ocean, pause for a moment and think about its story. Imagine the volcano that built it, erupting in darkness under miles of water, gradually growing toward light. Imagine the first seeds arriving, the slow assembly of an ecosystem, the evolution of species found nowhere else. Imagine the people who made it their home, learning to live with volcanic fire and building cultures shaped by their unique environments. These islands are among Earth's most special places, jewels scattered across the oceans, each unique, each precious. They face uncertain futures in our rapidly changing world, but they endure, and with our care, they can continue their ancient cycles of destruction and renewal, death and rebirth, extinction and evolution. So rest now. Let your breathing slow and deepen. Let the images of volcanic islands drift through your mind like clouds across a mountain summit. Black sand beaches, lava flowing like rivers of light, forests green and dripping with moisture, birds singing songs heard nowhere else, islands rising from the sea, islands sinking back into it, the endless dance of fire and water that shapes our world. Good night.